Good evening. I'm honestly feeling a little overwhelmed at the moment to see so many friends here. It's a really incredible thing. So thank you all for coming. And thank you, Roshi. I hope you're resting. For maintaining this place where we can all come together. And she's not with you. No, I'm looking at Dinah. Great. Please rest. It's been quite, well, especially a week, but quite a couple weeks here. And we just had chaplaincy cohort 17. Come on in. And Dayun, thank you. We just had chaplaincy cohort 17 with us for a week. And is 18 online, Mary? So hello to everyone online, chaplaincy cohort 18 and our regular celestials had a beautiful Jukai ceremony yesterday. And some of those who received the precepts and their new rakusus are with us tonight. And I see former residents and moms. Yeah, it's a real privilege to sit up here with all of you. And my talk tonight is entitled Just One Thing, which hi Shuri. I gave it that title. And it was a kind of cruel irony because I think I started about 4 different talks on the process to what I'll share with you tonight. And so first, thank you to all who talked to me about the talk. And for those who I said I was going to be talking about this, if it's not that, sorry, Koshin. What I want to talk about tonight is this question that comes up in me and that I hear from others who I get to sit with, which is this sense that practice is somewhere else. That our kind of awakened nature is somewhere else. There's somewhere we have to get, somewhere else we have to be. And if we don't live here, I can hear, yeah, busy lives, full lives, families and jobs and all these things to attend to. And I can assure you, if you don't live here, that the residents say the same thing. And especially during this season where we're welcoming so many friends, there can be this sense of like, oh, I can practice when it quiets down. I can practice when the zendo is not so full. I can practice when I don't feel so agitated or upset. When someone else comes here, when somebody leaves, or there's this sense of it's always somewhere else. And I remember Jukai and also my ordination, this sense of I received 5-striped robe and 7-striped robe. And it's like, okay, well now I have to get somewhere to practice, right? I need to be something else, maybe. And so part of the seed was planted yesterday, watching these beautiful people receive the precepts. Can you raise your hand if you've ever had a thought like this? Just Talia? There we go. Okay, great. So I just want to open up this question, this kind of creation of always, there's some here or there, good practice or bad practice, delusion and awakening, these kind of dualities that we create, and the way they sap our life. That's my experience of it. The way they can detract from everything that is good and beautiful and already right in front of us. So I'm going to start with a story, and this story is perfect because the two people who made it happen are sitting here. One is Visually, whose house I recently stayed at in Cerrillos, which I'm going to talk about. My experience there. And the second is Vanda, my fairy godmother, who made all this happen behind the scenes. This was last week, I think. And it was my first time out of the schedule in over a year, I think. And I had taken a week off and wasn't sure what I was going to do. And magically, some combination of Sarah and Vanda and Visually manifested this beautiful retreat down in Cerrillos. And just this wide open land, and this kind of desert, hilly landscape, junipers everywhere, and dueling hummingbirds outside my window. And I had this sense that I could go there and really practice. I had this sense in me, like I'll be able to step out and it'll be really quiet. And no one will be saying, Senko, can we check in? Or I won't be caught by something that was happening in the Zendo that's not supposed to be happening. And I love this time stepping out because that's in that space for me, there's always something that integrates. It's uh, like cooking soup. Soup doesn't come together until you take it off the heat and leave it alone for a little while. And so I was really excited. And there was some striving in me, some sense of like, I don't know what I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get something. And it was incredible and incredible to explore that land and not be in the schedule and just wander in those hills. And it wasn't what I expected. I really thought I'm going to get there and I'm just going to drop in. Maybe we have this experience during sesshin, where the first day it's kind of smooth. And then all of a sudden, the second day, I was just confronted by all of my own noisiness. And all of these imaginary people who were filling that beautiful little casita with me, who I didn't choose to be there, but there they were. And all of these conversations that just kept coming up. It was wild. And it was this beautiful perspective for me when I am here. It's just this sense of, I wonder how much of that is actually just me. is actually just this mind. Of course, we're here and living together closely, and have all these guests. But it was this beautiful perspective on all of these creations. And because of my vows, I was like, I am going to liberate these creations. And I failed again and again and again. And I started to get really agitated and frustrated with myself. And there was this sense of like, oh, I know how to do this. I, I know how to sit. I know how to let things go, I think. Obviously not, actually. um, but I really had this sense of squandering. I didn't have so many days. Um, and I was in this kind of negative downward spiral, all there on my own. And I was reading Dogen for fall practice period. I was studying for fall practice period, and I'm sorry, Monshin, I'm going to talk about Genjo Koan a little bit early. So I was sitting down, I think maybe the second evening, and listening. Visually had a hummingbird feeder outside the window, which I filled, thinking that I was going to create some beautiful peace and harmony in this little hummingbird paradise right outside the window where I was reading, and instead created a hummingbird turf war for 4 days, and just watched this one hummingbird dominate these three other hummingbirds, and felt a lot of frustration and a little bit of parental, like, if you can't share, I'm just going to take it away. Then I found a second one, and I hope that helped. But I was sitting there listening to like hummingbird dogfights, and read this line from Dogen's Genjo Koan. When you find your place where you are, practice occurs, actualizing the fundamental point. When you find your way at this moment, practice occurs, actualizing the fundamental point. For the place, the way, is neither large nor small, neither yours nor others. And he goes on to say, here is the place. Here the way unfolds. I've read Genjo Koan before, and I liked that line, but it had never landed in my gut the way it landed in my gut at that moment. And there was this sense of this tension just melting away in that moment. It's just right here. This is where I am. And I started to laugh a little bit. I won't say at myself, maybe with myself is kinder. Started to laugh a little bit with myself. And just felt this deep resistance to me. This deep resistance I was having to me, to how I am, to how I was in that moment. And the completely unnecessary suffering that was causing. And so I had this question, well, what is my way at this moment? And that happened. Now something else can happen. And another teaching popped into my head. This is how my brain works. Those who I talk to regularly know there's like these little flashes here and there. So thank you for bearing with me. This other passage came from the Platform Sutra from Huineng, our sixth Chinese ancestor. And in that passage, he's talking about one practice samadhi. And for those who are interested or curious, I believe it's in chapter 4 of the Platform Sutra. And this one practice samadhi comes from the Vimalakirti Sutra. It's an old Mahayana sutra. And the line that Huineng pulls out is always maintain a straightforward mind. That is his one practice samadhi. And straightforward can also be translated as sincere, direct. Always maintain a straightforward mind or a sincere mind or a direct mind. And Huineng is, in his way, then talking about how people misunderstand this. And he says these monks that he's put out to say they're doing it wrong. They sit all stillness, clear away delusions, and quash emerging thoughts. And they think that is one practice samadhi. But in that dharma, you're dead to the world, and you block the movement of way. But way always flows through. Why try to hold it back? If mind doesn't dwell in dharma, way flows through. If mind dwells in dharma, we say it's tangled itself in knots. Way always flows through. So in that moment, I was confronted with my own deeply conditioned controlling tendencies. I wanted it to be a different way. I didn't want those thoughts to be there. I didn't want that energy to be there. I wanted it to be different, and I fought with it. I really fought with it. And the other side of that, I was speaking with Roshi earlier today about this, is that sense of radical surrender. To just releasing any notion of control. That I can control this mind, that I can control this heart, that I can control this body, that I should control any of those things, that I should tell anybody else that they should control those things. And the kind of simultaneous terror and joy of having a moment of just saying, what if I just let this be? What if I'm not so fixated on this being a certain way? And Dogo Kensei Rinpoche is a Dzogchen teacher. He has this beautiful phrase that I've been sitting with, which is the yoga of resting like a flowing river. the yoga of resting like a flowing river. And this sense of to let the mind be, to let it do what it's going to do. And what does it feel like to not get caught, to not get swept away, but also to not try and block the flow, to let it move the way it's going to move. And I think this is our Zazen practice. I think this is our Zazen practice. To just be with things as they are, to be in that direct experience of whatever's happening. And in particular, to not get stuck in critique, to not get stuck in this kind of, for me at least, evaluation, good sitting, bad sitting. I thought I was past that. I thought I had resolved that thing with my dad. I thought I resolved that thing with that other person. I want to read another line from Dogen. This is from the end of the Fukan Zazengi, recommending Zazen to all beings. And both of these are Kaz's beautiful translations. Although circumstances may vary in 1,000 ways, just practice Zazen, giving yourself fully to the realization of the way. Why give up the sitting platform of your own house and wander uselessly in the dust of a remote land? Practice thusness continuously, and you will be thus. The treasury will open of itself for you to use as you wish. Practice thusness continuously, and you will be thus. The treasury will open of itself for you to use as you wish. So these first two sentences, just practice Zazen, giving yourself fully to the realization of the way. Why give up the sitting platform of your own house? When I named this talk just one thing, that's what I was thinking about. And some of you have heard this from me. It is this kind of growing passion of mine in being here with residents and all of our guests. Everything, all of the messaging in our lives that says we are not good enough as we are. There is something somewhere else that we need in order to be whole or complete. We have to pay for it. 3 installments, $79.99. And then it's the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And that kind of madness, mania, the impact that it has on these heart, body, minds, that can never be in the sitting platform of our own house. Why would we be? It's not good enough. Nobody says it's good enough. And we do this with each other. I do it. You need to be different. You need to change. To get this, you need to do that. And so for me, it's not this stubborn refusal to receive what the world is saying to us and allowing ourselves to be transformed. It's also not the stubborn, this is me and you're going to have to deal with it. But to be in this deep conversation, this deep exchange, which my sense is just the natural way of things, the way flows through, whether we pay attention to it or not, whether we want it to or not, whether we abide by it or not. And so, what a beautiful thing to just practice Zazen, to just be here, right now, with things as they are. And for me, I ordained and I live here, so it matters to me. Maybe it matters to you more than anything. Maybe it doesn't. But I wonder for all of us how our lives might open up, even if we don't call it Zazen. No matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, to just give ourselves fully to that moment, to that context, to that arising. And to release all of that wandering uselessly in the dust of a remote land, all of the projections, all of the future wandering, all of the past wandering, everything that's not just right there in front of us. Practice thusness continuously and you will be thus, right here. And what a promise from Dogen. The treasury will open of itself for you to use as you wish. And what a promise. What is that treasury? What do I get to do next? How cool. So a couple last thoughts and then just so you can have a sense of my mind today. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 passages were all of the things I thought maybe I also want to say, but couldn't find a place for it. So I just put them on the piece of paper to give myself a little comfort. So we'll see how we end together. But for me, just some thoughts to close. The first is to say, this isn't something special. I mean, it is, but we don't need to be in the Zendo to have this kind of heart mind of Zazen. And it doesn't need to look a certain way. You know, as I look at myself, that's just another wandering in a dusty land. I've been talking to some of our residents who have returned and those who are setting off. And yeah, we're used to sitting 3 times a day, and there can be this sense of, well, my practice is just going to be, it's going to explode. Because I'm not going to be here, and I'm not going to have the Zendo and the Jikido and all the bells and the schedule. And one of the things we talk about is, well, what can we do? We can do something. Maybe it's not sitting for 40 minutes 3 times a day. Maybe it's committing every time we go to the grocery store to just remember to feel our breath in our belly. Maybe it's taking 20 minutes in the morning. or the evening. I think Zazen's a beautiful thing and an important thing, especially as we come into some kind of attentional stability, not just to say, oh, never mind, and to sit together. I invite all of you, as much as you can, please come sit with us in the Zendo. It's a really beautiful time. It's a beautiful ceremony. But not to feel like, oh, if I'm not here, I don't have my rakusu on, or I can't get to Upaya, there's no Zazen. And the other piece is part of, again, a conversation I was having with Roshi recently. I'm gesturing to the camera where Roshi is right now. And she was talking about Roshi Bernie and his radical inclusivity. And I never knew Roshi Bernie. I'd never met Roshi Bernie. But what I hear and feel in this context is practice is radically inclusive. Sensei Jiryu gave us the teaching from Suzuki Roshi. Everything's included. I believe I've also read that teaching from Roshi Bernie. Everything's included in our practice. Everything's included includes, I think, our inclination not to include everything. So we don't need to get stuck in that spin cycle of self-flagellation around like, oh, I didn't want to include that. Okay, that's included. Great. What's next? And in this inclusivity, for me, at least, is this arising sense of integration. Roshi speaks about integrity. And for me, this sense of the integrity of this being. And when this being feels in integrity, there's all the space in the world for everything else around. What I can say for me, when this being feels fractured, there is no room. Or there's room for this, but not that. And a sense of coherence. Not of, there's this subtle distinction for me of the kind of masks that we put on, the incoherence of the masks that we put on. The needing to be a certain way in a certain place. And everything then we repress to put on those masks, to pass, right? The kind of toxicity of that. So to say the coherence is not that, but it is to show up as is appropriate. However this body is in that moment, to meet whatever is in front of us appropriately. And so when we come into this Zendo, we bow in a particular way. And that's our coherence in that moment. I've told a couple people this story when we were in Japan last year. We were at the 750th anniversary of Keizan Zenji's death. And it was 4:30 in the morning. There's a great picture of all of us gathering in the lobby of the hotel at 3:30 in the morning, fully robed. If you want to see some kind of dark days for priests, look at that picture. And we're in this room at Sojiji, one of our mother temples, and we were all getting dressed. And a monk came running in, and he said, the way you're wearing your robes, the way I'm wearing my robe right now, is the Heiji style. And that's not how we wear our robes here. We wear our robes in the Sojiji style, so you need to change how you wear your robes. And I don't know about all the other priests. This is how I'm used to wearing it. This ended up being like a 3 or 4 hour ceremony with a lot of prostrations. And these robes are a little unwieldy. So, and there were hundreds of people there. So to change the way we were wearing our robes last minute was for me like terror. Like I'm just going to face plant in front of all these people. Well, we changed our robes because that was the request in that moment. That was the coherence in that moment. And we just made do. And then I had some laughs. I'm looking at Shoryu and Dainan and Fushin and Onshin and Sagan, who were all there on Sui, to just meet that. So I'll end with Roshi Bernie. And this is from Bearing Witness. If we can deeply penetrate just one form of life, we can penetrate life in its totality. A common meditation practice is following one's breath. We sit still and follow our in-breath, then the out-breath, one after the other. If we give ourselves to this practice, if we become our inhalation and our exhalation, then there is nothing else. The infinite phenomena of the world are nothing other than this in-breath, this out-breath, and each breath is nothing other than the universe. If we give ourselves to this practice, if we become our inhalation and our exhalation, then there is nothing else. The infinite phenomena of the world are nothing other than this in-breath, this out-breath, and each breath is nothing other than the universe. Thank you all.